mention, I was involved in 1999. Before that time, I was involved in politics from outside. From 1999, I contested the elections in Nigeria. Not just an ordinary election, but that of the deputy governor of my state. And of course, the Nigerian constitution, the deputy governor and the governor, they are paired, just like the vice president and president. It was a ticket election. So I contested that election. 2003, contested again with my governor. 2007, I contested as the vice president with Yar'Adua. 2011, I contested as the president, where I presided over the country and still contested, and of course 2015 also. So when I went to Tanzania and I looked at the quality of election, I was quite impressed, very, very impressed. Even the activities, because for observation, international observation of elections, not what happened on that day alone that matters. The activities that led to the elections, in terms of registration of voters, how was the voters' registration conducted? Was it done in a way that some segment of society was not captured, thereby disemphasizing those people from participating in the electoral process that is key? How was the conversation in terms of political campaigns, government media, government control media, and so on? How did they manage the affairs? Were some people disadvantaged? All people given the opportunity to use the public media to advocate their own ideas and so on? Then of course, what happened in the election day proper in terms of voting, tallying, and counting votes at the polling units? Then the post-election, coordinating the results from the polling units up to, for presidential election, up to the national level, declaration of results, and so on and so forth. So this is very good. We observed up to the time I was personally involved. I went to so many polling stations. People were queued for hardly tallied the election. What we couldn't even do in Nigeria, or there what I observed in Tanzania, in some of the polling units, if you are representing Party A, I'm representing Party B, after sorting out the ballot papers, I will carry the ballot paper from Party B that I'm representing and give you to count. And you will count. I observed that in Tanzania. I was quite impressed. And you, representing Party A, will count those who voted for me. And we record it. So there was maximum cooperation. I saw a country that has advanced democratically. Well, we didn't really follow up in terms of clear observation of what happens between the results at the polling unit up to the collation and the elections were declaration of election. That I cannot comment much because I was not, although we made a little observation in some places. The only weakness the electoral process in Tanzania has, and that's even the position of the Commonwealth, I can say so because even in 2010, that is the selection of Commonwealth, was that the presidential elections in Tanzania, you don't challenge it in courts. So whatever result the electoral body declare is taking it as a scriptural injunction. Unlike most other countries like Nigeria that can challenge presidential elections in court and make a case. That is the only weakness I saw there. So if they're assuming you are not happy, assuming you suspect that something has been done that is not quite acceptable, immediately it's announced. For presidential election, for parliamentary election, you can go to court. But for presidential election, I believe they are considering the safety of the country. You don't go to court. In Zanzibar, what happened? First, I will not say much because we still want to go back and see how we solve the problem. Zanzibar has 54 constituencies within Zanzibar. And at the end of the election, so we have two teams. Because Zanzibar is made up of so many small islands, but there's only two islands that are occupied by people. We have two teams in these islands and other international observers. And the observation we had was the same observation others had. Because after all the observation, all the international observers came together to share experiences before we released our own interim statements. Because we didn't want to say that, oh, maybe Commonwealth is saying one thing, EU is saying another thing, AU is saying something else, the East Africa will be saying one thing, South Africa is saying another thing. So we wanted to see if there are gray areas. We wanted to resolve those gray areas among ourselves so that the communication will be very, very clear. And from all the reports we had, we were all comfortable. we had, in terms of communication, yes, different, but all we agreed on all the things. In Zanzibar, out of the 53 constituencies, the electoral body, the Zanzibar Electoral Commission, announced the results of 31 of these constituencies. After some time, the chairman now annulled the results of all the constituencies. And that's where we now have problems. And we felt they raised issues of malpractices in the remaining constituencies. Because the international observers' position then, it was not my personal position, was that, look, if you have already announced the results of 31, it's better for you to repeat the elections in the constituencies that you have not declared the results. But the Electoral Commission felt that one of the issues they raised was that by virtue of their constitution, it's only the Zanzibar Electoral Commission that can announce the results of elections. Of course, that's the position in most of the countries. As an observer or as a candidate or as a political party, you cannot announce the result. You can only collate based on the report from your agent, but you don't have legal power to announce the results. But even before the collation was still going on, the opposition party announced that they have won the presidential election with 54%. That was contrary against the constitution of Zanzibar. Definitely, it was against the constitution of Zanzibar. But it was a delicate issue. So the Zanzibar Electoral Commission felt that infraction, coupled with the fact that there are malpractices, that they will annul the whole elections and go back to a fresh election. But the opposition said, look, the international observers have said that elections are free and fair. That's the problem we have, that you must announce all the results. So that is the stalemate, but that is only in Zanzibar. It does not affect the overall elections in the country. For those of you who know Tanzania very well, the ambassador is here, and my good friend Kasim is very conversant. Zanzibar is a union government. You have the bigger part, the mainland, the original Tanganyika. Then of course Zanzibar, the island, and they come together to form the union. And the structure of the government is that Zanzibar, that's about 1.1 million people. They have their own president. They have their own parliament. Then they have their local councils. Then the overall country, they have the overall president, they have the overall parliament. So the day that we conducted this election, in the mainland, we are voting for the president, they voted for the president, they voted for the overall parliament, they voted for the local council elections. But in Zanzibar, they also voted for the overall president, the overall parliament, but in addition, they were voting for the president of Zanzibar, the parliament of Zanzibar, and the local council in Zanzibar. So we had 3 elections in the mainland, but 5 elections in Zanzibar. And these elections were carried out in the same polling unit. But somehow the results for the overall president was announced, but the election took place in the same unit. The results for the overall parliaments were announced, because they took place in the same unit. So it's only the elections that are related to Zanzibar alone that were annulled. So people are feeling that if you could accept these other ones, since the elections took place, the same people monitored, the same electoral officers worked, you should announce the results. So that's the problem we have. But I wouldn't want to say more in terms of what I think or what I don't think or what I believe or what I don't believe, because I am meant to participate in the negotiations. So I must be seen to be extremely neutral. And this matter, what the ambassador will help us here. But on the overall, I think Tanzania did very well. The quality of elections very high. The issues of corruption following elections, we did not observe that. It's one country that, unlike most other countries, including Nigeria, during campaigns, sometimes you produce gift items for people, you produce biro pens, you produce handkerchiefs, you produce cups and things like that, and you think you are doing it, but in Tanzania you don't do that, because it's considered as inducing the electorate. So the only thing that candidates do is to work with their political parties to provide vests, singlets, and flags for their youth and women to wear. That is the only thing, and provide vehicles to transport people to venues for campaigns and so on. You don't give anything. Most other countries give certain things, and it's considered as it's accepted by the practice, not necessarily guided by any law. So it was a transparent act. I really commend the people.